Mesdames et messieurs, bonsoir. Bienvenue à notre avant-dernière session de l'année, co-organisée par la SKMF et la SMP pour la deuxième fois. Alors, nous allons parler ce soir de la gestion de projet et de la gestion des connaissances avec deux prestations complémentaires, deux perspectives complémentaires.
Oui. So voilà. Quelle langue? Ça va être une soirée un peu compliquée. On a un disclaimer là-dessus. Une soirée expérimentale en deux langues. Donc, this is going to be a bilingual event. So we'll try to talk in both languages at the same time or one after the other. So you already
have to be in the camera, you know.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to move the camera a little bit to make it to get a better angle.
And I take the slide.
And you take the slide.
Because this is always the question, you know, do we talk about project management in certain circumstances, making a project, or do we talk about knowledge management? And today we are going to see how these two perspectives actually work together and come together.
OK. Donc, c'est une soirée préparée par la SMP et le SKMF conjointement, d'où l'appel à la présentation qui a été faite. Vous voyez les deux sites ensemble. Et puis, du coup, voilà. On attire votre attention sur ce qu'on vient de dire. C'est une soirée qui est bilingue et en même temps, elle est expérimentale sur deux aspects. Elle est bilingue et elle est mixte. Donc, c'est la première soirée formation qu'on fait qui est mixte, présentiel et Zoom. Ça va faire un certain nombre de challenges quand on commencera à travailler autour des tables et qu'il y aura des gens qui seront connectés de l'extérieur et qui vont se mettre dans les breakout rooms et assigner à différentes tables. Je vous demande votre indulgence et patience par rapport à cette expérimentation. On n'a pas pu tout tester à l'avance, mais on voulait quand même essayer le coup. So this is going to be an experimental event on both counts. It's bilingual and it's mixed for a training session where we will have people from Zoom in breakout rooms assigned to different tables so that you can work together. And that's going to be a challenge because of feedback in the audio, possibly, and collaboration challenges. We wanted to experiment it, even though we weren't able to fully test it. So we ask for your patience and willingness to experiment. Okay, so we will go through, this is the 10-minute introduction, which is longer already. An interactive round, one for 20 minutes, debrief 10 minutes, interactive round 2, 20 minutes, debrief. Then some theory about project management and knowledge management, and then Q&A, and people have to leave at 8:10 max, so it's going to be fun. So now the first session, interactive round starts. So you have an envelope on each one of your tables. We ask you to open them and do whatever is said in the envelope. Alors, chaque table reçoit une enveloppe. Il y a un problème?
Non, non.
Non. Oui. Merci, Kate. Et vous devez faire ce qui est écrit dans l'enveloppe. Enfin, vous devez. On sera content si vous vouliez faire ce qui est écrit dans les enveloppes. Et il y a des gens qui vont passer entre les tables et puis vous aider si besoin. Et dans 20 minutes, on fait un débrief. Merci beaucoup. So maybe you'll recognize this way of showing things. We wanted... Sorry, I have to remove Zoom here. So you have an organization and you're in a project, but you're plunged into something that you don't see where it began and where it goes. So this is what we explicitly wanted you to see, is you need a lot more information, as Thierry said, to understand what to do. And the project is just one step in a much bigger view of the organization that has its history, that has its future, and you have just one building block in the middle of it. And that's where knowledge management comes into it. You have to know, you have to say you need all this information. Where does this information come from? You need a lot more work to do knowledge management to get to this information. If we take a step back, this is the, you should all know this one. It's the PMBOK 6, okay, which is partitioned into knowledge areas mostly, and standards for project management. And then on the other side, you have PMBOK 7 that doesn't have knowledge areas anymore, but has performance, project perform. Let's see it here. Yeah, project performance domains here, and standards. So where is planning in all this? It's there. Okay, somewhere buried inside each one of them, you have the planning that we asked you to do. So why did we ask you to do the planning and not any other of these performance domains? Ok. Le planning, ça c'est le PMBOK 6, ça c'est le PMBOK 7. Le planning dans chacun des deux de ces standards, il est ici, dans les standards du project management là. Et puis dans le nouveau PMBOK, c'est dans les performance domains. Ils ont juste renommé un peu les choses. Alors, pourquoi est-ce qu'on vous a demandé de faire du planning?
Parce que le planning, c'est une conséquence. Et si on ne connaît pas ce qu'il y a en amont, on ne peut pas faire de planning.
Exactement. Merci beaucoup, Jacques. D'après le PMBOK 7, hein, celui-là, en fait, il faut savoir. You have to know all of this to do the planning. You need the project charter, the business case, and a lot of other documents. The question is, where do these documents come from? And you were all challenged by this, which was the point. So where do all these things come from? And to plan, you have to know all of this, what is expected, etc. We could have started with any other activity, by the way, because PMBOK 7 also places a lot of emphasis on systems thinking, saying that everything is connected to everything. So we could start with any of these things and the whole world will come apart together like a spaghetti plate. So, but we chose planning because it was easy to ask you to do it, and it was then it was obvious that everything will come out of it. You cannot plan if you don't know what to do. This is also a diagram from PMBOK 7. We wanted you to see how they discuss these things. You can read it later when you'll have the slide, but more you have the information flows between senior leadership, portfolios, programs and projects. And the text says, if you read it, that the information actually flows from portfolios to programs to operations. And you kind of get the impression that there are no people in there. It's just the information flows. So it's easy. It's simple. It goes
from one thing to the other. You know, this is Internet of Things.
Yeah, you have things that talk to things. And then you have the feedback loops. You just read the text, it's absolutely marvelous. From a knowledge management point of view, where you focus on people, you say, how is it going to flow? Where's knowledge management in the PMBOK? Well, it's down here. Okay, 258. You have all this structure. These are the project performance. You can see it because it's behind this thing. Project performance domains is 2. That's the core of the standard. And somewhere in learning throughout the project, lessons learned, etc. You have inside, you have 258 learning, 2581 knowledge management, and 2582 that says that there is something called explicit and tacit knowledge. Okay, and that's where you hit the rock bottom, because the whole point of, you say there's explicit knowledge, also called information, which is stuff that is codified in words and documents, etc. And then you have tacit knowledge. And tacit knowledge is challenging to express. Now, yes, we're up, yeah.
Just maybe if you look at what they have done, they have put it into learning, into also lessons learned, which is from the graphic I have shown before, only this one part. And the knowledge within the projects, even the connections, and the knowledge about the projects is forgotten here in PMBOK latest version.
And the history and the future and all that stuff.
And by the way, this is PMBOK, this is PMI. Now, if you look at IPMA, they don't talk about knowledge management whatsoever. Doesn't exist for them. Go.
Focus. Okay, now what you experienced, the floor plan is not exactly what we have here, but you had the different teams, and the difficulty we noticed. What did we notice about the second iteration, Pavel?
The second iteration was that it took half of the time, of the given time, until the first people got up and started to talk to the other teams. Half of the time.
So there's kind of as if there was a boundary around each team. You're not connected. It's normal, okay? Each team has its identity, its culture, and you can create it in 20 minutes. That was the point in the first iteration, to get you to build some identity, some way of working, and then it's very difficult to get up and talk to others. Now imagine if you've been working with the same team for 2, 3, or 5 years and not 20 minutes. So each team has its own identity. It's very difficult to pass information. So unlike what PMI suggests, this view of just information flows from one to the other, it doesn't really happen in reality. You have all these barriers, and mainly having to do with tacit knowledge.
I have a comment.
Sure. Yeah.
So Johnny from online says a remark: at Siemens, a lessons learned workshop is mandatory for projects above a certain turnover volume. Mm-hmm. And Vermeulen says
François.
Pardon, François. Prince 2 accorde une place beaucoup plus centrale aux lessons learned.
Yeah. So lessons learned, as they are transcribed, who reads them? It's good to do them. Most organizations don't even do them. But even if they do, who's taking the time to do the reading or accepting?
Des jobs importants qui sont pas assez mis en évidence pour une entreprise qui ont des PMO. Mm-hmm. Et ça fait vraiment partie, une des raisons d'être importantes dans PMO. Mm-hmm. C'est de récupérer les bonnes et mauvaises pratiques et de les mettre en valeur et de les partager. Parce que, comme dit très justement, c'est pas les processus c'est les hommes, les femmes qui vont faire que ça va fonctionner. Et donc, il faut qu'il y ait, on ne peut pas se baser que sur des outils. Il faut aller au-devant et il faut qu'il y ait des gens qui soient payés. Moi, l'expérience que j'ai en termes de knowledge management et qui a très bien fonctionné, c'était sur un très gros projet où les gens recevaient leur bonus pour 50% en fonction du knowledge sharing qu'ils ont fait, de la capitalisation du savoir qu'ils ont fait. C'était 50% du bonus. Et là, ça a marché. Autrement, il n'y a personne qui prend le temps, on saute sur le projet suivant parce qu'on a rarement qu'un projet à la fois, plusieurs, et on n'a jamais assez de temps.
Okay. Very good.
That was a very good point because sometimes we have also done a little bit same because where money is, there is the thinking that people did not get money for the next project before proving they have collected all the lessons learned that were relevant to the new project. Before this proof was not given, they didn't get the resources to continue.
But then you need to have the management having this awareness and willingness.
Yes,
and
exactly.
This is a big issue.
Yes, agreed.
Et François est d'accord.
So just before we close, I would like to show just other small thing.
Yeah.
And this is a classical issue which we have now looked at as well, because we have now a certain experience here. And I would like to show you this funnel, because we can think more than we can speak, and we can speak much more than document. And this is kind of a classical funnel, which was already told by Polanyi. You see again the explicit, the tacit knowledge, which we have just heard before. But the thing is that if we are looking at the knowledge management history and how it is also connected to project management, many times we had this nice experience being together, having a workshop. However, it is poorly documented. And when people go back after 2, 3, 4 weeks, they are so disappointed that they start to talk about, we should do a knowledge management project. And this is the known phenomena that this experience and the reality in bad documentation is kind of always a problem. And we have also put this into a model. Okay. And this is a model which we have developed showing the knowledge in the heads, the information. These are the methods around more the knowledge facilitation. And this is the critical point, because nobody wants to do transcripts and put it into good quality documentation. And that's why all of these things very often are also disappointing, because this transfer is not done well. Just one way how to look at knowledge management practices as well.
So what prevents knowledge management? This is Veronique. It's your slide. If you know, it reduces your listening ability, just like a full glass of water prevents you from pouring more water in it. It's an analogy. Accepting knowledge means changing our perceptions, and our perceptions, our preconceptions, are the base of our identity and the way we see the world. So it's very difficult to change these things. And also, from 10 years ago, we had this joint event between SKMF and SMP. And one of the people who were in the room had knowledge about what we were discussing. We didn't know it, but he couldn't talk about it because he didn't think it was relevant for the others. So he just remained, he was an expert in the stuff that was talked about, but he didn't talk about because it didn't mean much for the others, he thought. So that was fun. And we very often run into it's us versus them and the not invented here syndrome as what we tried to show you when you had your teams. So the conclusion. From the PM perspective, it seems that the information flow is just goes. You know, this thing talks to that thing, to that thing, to that thing. But from the KM perspective, it's hardly ever the case, and you have to pay attention to it. And as we said before, it's not only enough to, it's necessary to document, to do the lessons learned, but it's not sufficient, because if nobody reads it, and so who ever started a project by studying all the documentation that was done before? I guess not many of you, and I know not me, so. And sometimes this documentation is there, but nobody tells you, and you discover it 3 years later, or after the project was done, suddenly, oh, but we have done this. Oh, okay, why didn't you show it to me the first time? Okay, and we talked about all these aspects, and we thank you very much. It's time, right? So.
Thank you very much.
Il y a une question en ligne que j'avais spotée. Celle sur est-ce qu'il y a des outils qui existent?
How do you share with other teams? Do you have a tool repository? I think that was to Johnny, and Johnny answered it.
But Johnny has a tool.
And so I a team building workshop where we split it in several groups, had to build a boat, but this was only possible by talking across groups and exchange material together. At the end, it was only possible to build one boat together. I'm not sure if that was the answer, but
okay. Okay. And we're very sorry for the maybe not perfect experience for the people online. We knew it would be a challenge. We couldn't say it too explicitly ahead of time, but we hope it was useful beyond the PDUs. Only, even if it was not really nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup. Just for you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I hope that you will like it.
Yes, definitely.
Voilà, nous sommes arrivés à la fin de cette session. Maintenant, on va parler de l'avenir. Pour la dernière session donc, de l'année qui aura lieu le 7 décembre, nous avons choisi cette fois de vous impliquer dans le contenu de la soirée. Pour ce faire, vous allez recevoir, donc, avec l'invitation de la soirée qui va venir, un lien vous permettant d'accéder au forum et poser votre question sur des sujets qui vous tiennent à cœur. Ça, c'est la première étape. Ensuite, quelques temps après avoir consolidé et regroupé toutes ces questions, nous allons vous solliciter cette fois en tant qu'expert sur un des sujets justement qui ont été regroupés. Ainsi, durant la soirée que nous avons donc le 7 décembre, vous serez tantôt spectateurs et tantôt contributeurs dans une de ces tables rondes qui dureront chacune environ 20 minutes. Voilà, nous espérons que cela vous plaira. Nous pensons vraiment que c'est une autre manière, une autre expérience encore, mais nous espérons que tout ira bien. Maintenant, pour le congrès, une dernière information, aussi importante, Rebecca. Voilà.
Bonsoir tout le monde. Donc, vous avez peut-être déjà capté l'information, c'est qu'on se relance dans l'organisation d'un congrès pour l'année prochaine. On a envie de se voir, on a envie d'aborder un défi qui nous concerne tous, c'est la transformation du métier de chef de projet. Avec la digitalisation, avec le multisite, avec tous les outils, avec le multiculturel, c'est plein de facteurs qui ont un grand impact sur le métier. Et donc, on a lancé l'appel à contribution, on va créer un programme super intéressant. De nouveau, plusieurs sessions parallèles, tout est ouvert, on attend les contributions pour établir le programme. Donc, allez sur le site project-management.ch, vous y trouverez toutes les informations et on se réjouit de vous lire. Merci.
Dernière information.
La date?
La date.
Le 21 avril 2022, ça veut dire le jeudi après Pâques.
Merci beaucoup et bonne soirée. Au revoir.